It's 4 o'clock. The top stories on 7 News. 3 people found dead in Sydney's northwest. Some relief from the rain smashing the city. And the multi-billion-dollar war chest to bolster our fleet of warships.
Live from Sydney, 7 News with Ann Sanders.
Good afternoon. Homicide detectives are this afternoon investigating the discovery of 3 bodies in 2 separate locations in Sydney's northwest. Live to Annie Pullar in North Parramatta. Good afternoon, Annie. What can you tell us?
Good afternoon, Anne. Well, this has been an incredibly distressing scene here in North Parramatta, where the homicide squad were called in just after 12:30 this afternoon. This is where we're told the bodies of a mother and a child were located in an alleyway. Who made that tragic discovery and who called police is still unclear, but we do know it has triggered a very large emergency response. As you can imagine, the dog squad and detectives have been going door to door here on Daking Street, speaking to local business owners in the area to try and piece together how this has happened. Many locals told me when they arrived at work this morning they didn't see anything suspicious. There was no police presence at all, so they were completely shocked to learn what had happened here.
It's quite frightening, isn't it? We come here every day, spend 10, 12 hours here. You've got a school across the road, hundreds of kids, and to hear something like this happening, it's atrocious.
What I've seen was, when I turned up at the site to clean the site, was the police being here in presence and looking at next door. By their presence, you knew that something was going on, something serious.
And about an hour before this crime scene was established, 7 News can tell you police were called to a Borkham Hills home about 10 minutes from here at around 11 a.m. That is where they've discovered the body of a male. Police are yet to confirm if these 2 crime scenes are linked, but 7 News can tell you this afternoon that the 3 people who have been killed are believed to be all related from the same family. Police, as 7 News understands, are working on the theory that this could be a triple murder. None of this has been officially confirmed yet. I can also tell you, Anne, in developing news, a 4th man presented himself to Westmead Hospital overnight. He appeared there with slash wounds, and I can tell you he remains there under police guard this afternoon. We've had no official confirmation if he is linked to these 2 crime scenes or what role he plays. But what we do know, Anne, is this is an absolute tragedy. A mother, a child, and a man killed in 2 separate crime scenes. We'll have all the breaking developments coming to you through the afternoon and at the news at 6.
Annie Pullar reporting from North Parramatta. Thank you, Annie. 6 drone warships are to be commissioned for the Australian Navy, missile carriers that can roam the world's oceans with no one at the wheel. They're part of a major naval shakeup that will see our fleet more than doubled. Chief Reporter Chris Reason was at the announcement.
Good afternoon. Well, it's been described as a historic day, the most consequential investment in the Navy since the Second World War, with a major step too into the future and the development of drone ships. Announced from the decks of the HMAS Canberra, plans to more than double the size of Australia's surface fleet from 11 to 26 in total. The centrepiece, 11 new general purpose frigates, 3 bought off the shelf from overseas and the remaining 8 built in Perth, as will 6 new drone ships, or what the Navy's calling large optionally crewed surface vessels. US designed, their new technology, essentially floating missile platforms. More ships, more lethal and more expensive. The budget jumps to $54 billion, or 2.4% of GDP.
Today is a good day for the Australian Defence Force.
The largest fleet since the end of the Second World War.
They've also confirmed the number of planned Hunter-class frigates will be cut from 9 to 6 to save $20 billion on that troubled program, but insisting that shipbuilding jobs will be safe in Adelaide, with a new undersided ship to be built there after the Hunter completes in 2043. Australia's 6 ageing Anzac-class frigates will also be wound down, today announcing the oldest, HMAS Anzac, will not go to sea again. The retirement of the Anzac actually means that despite the fanfare of today, the Australian surface fleet falls from 11 ships to 10, going backwards before it steps forwards. Back to you.
The CEO of Virgin Australia has announced she's stepping down from her role. Jane Herdlicker has been at the helm for 4 years, taking over when Virgin was bought by Bain Capital at the height of the pandemic. The airline has announced its return to profitability in the last financial year. Ms Herdlicker will stay on until a new boss is named. It's unclear when that will happen. The wife of Putin opposer Alexi Navalny has accused the Kremlin of hiding his body to cover up how he died. She claims President Putin had her husband poisoned with a Novichok nerve agent. Here's our Europe correspondent, Ash Mullaney.
Alexi Navalny's family have been denied access to his body, and Russian authorities have now told them they won't be releasing his body for another 14 days while they carry out a chemical examination. That only fueling speculation that the former Russian opposition leader met with foul play inside that Serbian prison where he'd been detained. His wife, Yulia, who's been a steadfast supporter over the years, is urging the EU to hold Vladimir Putin accountable. She said the Kremlin is not only responsible for her husband's death, but of now hiding his body too.
We know why exactly Putin killed Alexei 3 days ago. We will tell you about it soon. We will definitely find out who exactly and how exactly this crime was carried out. We will name names and show faces.
The EU is weighing more sanctions against Russia, so is the United States. But we know from the war in Ukraine that they are largely symbolic and have done little to deter Russia in the past.
Tribal conflict is being blamed for a deadly ambush in Papua New Guinea's highlands. Local police now say at least 49 people have been killed in the gun battle, which broke out over the weekend between warring tribes. Innocent villagers were reportedly among those killed in the massacre. It's believed access to firearms and ammunition is intensifying tribal fighting. It was slow going for commuters this morning after a police operation shut down several lanes on the Harbour Bridge. Traffic banked up kilometres, causing delays of up to an hour. Natasha Squarey reports.
Well, traffic on the Harbour Bridge is moving fairly smoothly now, but it was a rough start to the day for thousands of commuters, with some almost an hour late for work. A delicate police operation near the north pylon of the bridge closed multiple lanes in both directions around 6 a.m. after a man was found sitting on a ledge. Emergency crews, including paramedics, were called to the scene, and only one northbound lane was open and 3 southbound. Traffic crawled as police negotiators were brought in. At one stage, cars were backed up for 8 kilometres past the Anzac Bridge to Lilyfield and more than 16 kilometres to the Lane Cove Tunnel. Delays also flowed on to the Eastern Distributor with heavy traffic on the Car Hill Expressway. Buses were, of course, delayed too.
Probably an extra 30 minutes. 20 at least.
Yeah, are you late for anything?
Yes, I am. I've just had to call a client and say, yeah, I'll be late.
How much longer did it take you?
I don't know, about 40 minutes or an hour.
Everyone was at a standstill, so not good times this morning.
Others avoided the gridlock by walking. And how did you get across?
I walked across the cycleway, which was quite harrowing.
We know that motorists and unfortunately people using public transport were significantly inconvenienced.
The man managed to come down safely around 8:30 and all lanes on the bridge were reopened by 9 a.m.
There were more showers for Sydney today, but no repeat of yesterday's destructive storm. There are warnings of flash flooding, especially in the city's southwest, while a truck and car collided on the M1 at Mooney Creek. More than 75,000 lightning strikes were recorded citywide yesterday. The 4 people who were struck while standing under a tree near the Sydney Opera House are all in stable conditions. Angie joins us now with the latest on our weather. Hi there, Angie. Is there much more rain on the way?
And good afternoon to you. Well, all severe thunderstorm warnings have been cancelled just in the last half hour. So while yesterday was certainly the peak of the stormy weather, you can see from today's radar it's been another round of heavy showers, rain at times. We've recorded 47 millimetres at Marrickville since 9 a.m, 38 for Belrose, 36 at Cronulla, 32 at the airport and 19 in the CBD. 864,000 lightning strikes were detected within a 500-kilometre radius of Newcastle in the 24 hours until 9 o'clock this morning. But you will see this afternoon things are looking considerably calmer. The chance of any wet weather and storms will become less likely this evening. The other impact of that wet weather has been to do with temperature, a milder top of 23 degrees in the CBD, and that happened before 10 a.m. So looking ahead, the potential for showers does continue this week, but totals will be much lighter between now and Thursday. Come Friday, things start to ramp up again. More showers amounting to 15 to 25 millimetres through these green zones and the potential for more storms. Those details in the 7-day forecast soon, Anne.
See you then, Angie. Thank you. And still to come in Sydney's afternoon news on 7, a man accused of lashing out and critically injuring a supermarket worker. Explosions ring out as Israel launches airstrikes on Lebanon. And later, scientists discover the brightest known object in the universe.
Western Sydney murder mystery, 3 bodies at 2 separate locations. Sydney saturated, flood warnings and danger on the roads. The invisible pollution risk at Sydney train stations. Drone ships, the Australian Navy's bold step into the future. And Operation Taylor Swift, crucial details to avoid transport chaos. That's at 6.
This is the view of a grey Parramatta where it's currently 23 degrees. You're watching 7's 4 p.m. Sydney News. A man's been taken to hospital after he was stabbed at Guildford in the city's west. It happened around 4 o'clock this morning. Witnesses reported seeing 3 men assaulting the 40-year-old before the trio fled the scene in a white Toyota Ute.
Yeah, at least 3 people screaming, 3 or 4 people screaming.
The victim's injuries are said to be non-life-threatening. A supermarket worker has suffered life-threatening injuries after being attacked while on the job. Retailers warn workers are becoming increasingly targeted in similar attacks. The victim's family and shocked co-workers now offered support. Here's Andrew Denny.
Well, 25-year-old Jovan Liana fronted court here in Blacktown this morning, charged with recklessly causing grievous bodily harm and 2 counts of stealing. Police allege this is him on security camera on Sunday, moments after trying to steal a couple $100 worth of groceries from Coles in Blacktown, shoving a worker to the ground who had tried to stop him. 64-year-old Yaroslav Potasnik hit his head on the tiles hard, suffering swelling to his brain, and he is now on life support in hospital, his condition critical. Neighbours today shocked at the news.
It's so upset, honestly. He's a really nice guy. Yeah, just not easy to hear something about someone that you've really been close to for the last 7 years.
Coles says it is providing support for both Yaroslav's family and his colleagues who witnessed what happened. Retailers say it is a shocking example of an increasing issue of violence targeting workers.
They're not victimless crimes. 1 in 4 ends up with some sort of either verbal abuse or physical abuse.
Now, this alleged attacker was arrested following a public appeal for help to identify him by police. He made no application for bail here in court today and will stay in custody until his matter returns in March.
Israeli airstrikes have rattled parts of southern Lebanon, producing explosions and plumes of smoke. The country's military says it was targeting Hezbollah weapons depots around 60 kilometres north of the border. Tit-for-tat exchanges of fire are continuing in the region, with Israel pushing further into Lebanese territory. There were no reports of deaths or injuries. A passenger jet has been left with gaping holes in its side after crashing into a runway light during takeoff in Serbia. The Air Serbia flight had been scheduled to travel to Dusseldorf when it punctured its fuselage, forcing pilots into an emergency landing. No one on board was seriously hurt. Next in 7's afternoon news, we'll have sport with McLaughlin, including Latrell Mitchell flies out to meet up with his South teammates in the USA. Wide basketball legend Scottie Pippen says the Kings are prime for another NBL title. And later, Aussie scientists helping to build the world's most advanced artificial heart.
Exclusive Operation Taylor Swift. 7 News takes you inside Sydney's massive transport project to stop a traffic meltdown.
We are throwing everything at it.
Crucial details on commuter timetables and the special artificial intelligence technology keeping watch over everything. 7 News at 6.
Mel's here now with sport, and more bunnies are bound for the USA.
Exciting times, and with no sign of strapping on the knee he hurt in the All-Stars game, Latrell Mitchell was among the players and staff to fly out this morning, along with brother Shaq. Playing in the USA will be a new experience for all of the bunnies, except for Tom Burgess.
I've actually played a game over there in the States, in Denver, one year with England against New Zealand. It was really good. Had a really good time. The American crowd loved it, really got into it, so to be able to go and play the first NRL game there is going to be really exciting.
The first group of Rabbitohs touched down in LA this morning, welcomed by some red and green diehards. Souths will spend 8 days preparing in San Diego before making their way to Las Vegas on Wednesday week.
We're not going to behave any different here as we would at home. We're not here for a holiday, we're here to work, so the players know that. We want to enjoy the experience as well, be respectful of the area that we're in.
There's been a couple of people notice, whether they're Aussies or a couple of American supporters too, which knows that we're over here a little bit already, so it's going to be great to increase those crowd numbers and get the game recognised over here.
Injury-prone Manly forward Josh Schuster won't play against Souths due to calf soreness. Australia will prioritise beating New Zealand over planning for the June T20 World Cup, but skipper Mitch Marsh confirmed Travis Head and David Warner will have first crack at opening over Steve Smith. Marsh leads a full-strength squad, including Test skipper Pat Cummins.
Oh, we love the Kiwi welcomes, they're great. I'm not, auditioning for the role. I'm here to do a job, and I'm very proud to captain Australia.
The 3-match series for the Chapel Hadley Trophy starts at a sold-out cake tin in Wellington tomorrow. Winning key matches without Sam Kerr at last year's World Cup has given the Matildas the belief they can qualify for the Paris Olympics minus their injured skipper. The Aussies are in camp in Dubai, preparing for the first leg of their home and away tie against Uzbekistan in Tashkent on Saturday night.
We don't get too much time to spend together, so it's going to be really important that everyone hits the ground running. Just get that, those relationships back and get back into the way the Matildas do things.
The return leg at Melbourne's Marvel Stadium is on Wednesday week. They snuck into the finals by the skin of their teeth, but basketball great Scottie Pippen is convinced the Kings have a serious shot at a third straight NBL title. A 6-time NBA championship winner with the Chicago Bulls, Pippen helped launch the finals this morning. He expects the Kings to lift their game to new heights now the playoffs are here.
They had to win the other night to get into the playoffs, but that's all it takes. As a player who won multiple titles, sometimes you get a little bored during the regular season. That's probably what happened to them.
Yeah, the Kings host the New Zealand Breakers tomorrow night in a sudden death play-in game. Some NBA royalty there, and he's just super cool, isn't he, Scottie Pippen?
Isn't he? Absolutely. Thank you, Mel. A heart implant that's been decades in the making is about to start human trials. The device, designed in Brisbane and developed in Melbourne, is being fast-tracked thanks to a $50 million grant from the federal government.
This is not just an evolution of existing devices, this is a true revolution of what's out there.
It is going to impact hundreds of millions of people around the world that suffer from heart failure, that we currently cannot keep them alive and have them thrive.
It was invented by an Australian biomedical engineer whose father suffered heart failure. The prototype for the device was made years ago using plumbing pipes from Bunnings. This afternoon's top stories are next, including a murder mystery in our west, 3 bodies discovered at separate crime scenes. The latest on the asbestos crisis, 6 new sites found to be contaminated. And the dizzying speeds these planes will hit at an airshow spectacular.
Live from Sydney, 7 News with Ann Sanders.
Welcome back. These are our top stories on 7. Police have roped off multiple crime scenes across Sydney after the bodies of 3 people were discovered. Heavy rain has caused crashes and flash flooding on the city's roads. A multi-billion-dollar boost has been announced to bring our naval fleet up to scratch. And Sydney is on Taylor Swift watch ahead of her latest run of shows. The Homicide squad has been called in after 3 bodies were discovered at 2 separate crime scenes across Sydney. A man was found dead at Borkham Hills this morning, and shortly afterward, 2 other bodies, that of a woman and child, were found in North Parramatta.
It's quite frightening, isn't it? We come here every day, spend 10, 12 hours here. You've got a school across the road, hundreds of kids, and to hear something like this happen, it's atrocious.
Detectives believe the incidents are linked, suspecting all 3 could be members of the one family. A 4th person is being questioned by police after visiting a hospital with serious but non-life-threatening injuries. Sydney's asbestos crisis has now spread to almost 50 locations. Half a dozen sites have been added to the list, including parks, an aged care facility and a school, all found to be contaminated. Chris Marr has the latest.
Well, this park in Glebe is the scene of the second case where the more deadly form of asbestos has been found during this ongoing scare. Environment protection officials have confirmed friable asbestos has been discovered in the Bicentennial Park in Glebe, one of 6 new Sydney sites to test positive to asbestos. The popular park has been fenced off ahead of remediation work. The asbestos material has been discovered on a single vinyl tile,
which indicates that it's not available to be aerosolised or breathed in. So again, that has been identified as low risk.
This is really alarming because if this removal happened in April last year, you might have had 12 months worth of asbestos contamination at this school that you didn't know about.
Unlike yourself,
and you haven't
I'm
talked
just
about
not
that
in the
publicly,
business
not
of scaring young children.
The asbestos crisis has seen sparks fly in a parliamentary estimates hearing today where education officials confirmed that at Liverpool West Public School 1,000 tonnes of mulch and material will be removed. Also revealed, an asbestos order was issued 12 months ago for an old building that was demolished at the school. A total of 47 sites have now tested positive for asbestos. Environment officials confident they have reached the overwhelming majority of suspect mulch.
A New South Wales police officer has been charged over a crash that killed Indigenous teenager Jai Wright. The officer is accused of negligent driving, occasioning death and other offences. 16-year-old Jai suffered serious head injuries when an unmarked police car crashed into the motorbike he was riding in Alexandria 2 years ago. His parents have released a statement welcoming the charges and urging supporters to allow the legal process to play out. Australia's 2 largest supermarkets are being accused of misleading customers and bleeding suppliers dry. The CEO of Woolworths walked out during an interview when he was put under pressure. Tyra Stowers reports.
Well, Coles and Woolworths hold 65% of Australia's grocery markets, and they're being accused of using this power to push up prices and rip off suppliers. Between them, they made $84 billion in revenue last year, more than $1 billion each in profits. Whilst customer grocery bills are growing, many households are at breaking point. In a tense interview on Four Corners, the Woolworths CEO buckled under pressure when he was grilled about whether there's enough competition in the market, dismissing concerns raised by the former chairman of the ACCC.
I'm just saying the world has got much more competitive.
He retired 18 months ago.
I shouldn't have said that, Angus. Are we going to leave it in there if we are?
Well, I mean, we're on the record. You said it. I mean, you know, let's move on. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I think I'm done, guys. You know, I do this with good intent.
He did later return to continue answering questions. Coles didn't get off lightly either. Leaked emails revealed they've been accepting lump sum payments from suppliers in exchange for price rises.
We ended up giving a lump sum of money to get the price increase through, which was accepted in full.
So you're saying that they will validate your price increase if you give them either more margin or a lump sum of money?
Correct.
The supermarkets know that fruit and vegetable is perishable. If you don't sell it, it's worthless. and as a result they can exploit that by offering rock bottom take it or leave it prices.
There are now calls for tighter regulation of the industry. Choice says both major supermarkets are guilty of dodgy and confusing specials, calling on unfair pricing practices to be banned. While the Greens plan to move a motion in Parliament tomorrow to give the state greater powers to stop supermarkets from price gouging.
There's been a huge legal win for ANZ, the lender given the green light to take over Suncorp's banking arm. The competition watchdog had initially blocked the bid over fears it could make ANZ more dominant in the market. But a tribunal has since ruled the positives of the $4.8 billion acquisition outweigh the negatives. Well, Sydney's on Taylor Swift watch as the superstar prepares for her next run of shows. There's even speculation this afternoon her Super Bowl winning boyfriend, Travis Kelce, could be making his way to the Harbour City. Paul Caddick reports.
Good afternoon. As the rain has been coming down here in Sydney, it appears that Taylor Swift may have opted for an inside day for her first full day back in the city. Counting down to the first of her 4 shows here on Friday. And after those fierce storms yesterday, more thunder and lightning today, there have been some concerns from Swifties about Friday's forecast, which at the moment is for increasing showers in the afternoon and evening with the chance of a thunderstorm. But as for any fears about postponing the show, according to Accor Stadium, events will go ahead, rain, hail or shine, unless artist and patron safety is at risk. What else the 34-year-old might be up to until Friday is still an open question, but this morning the private jet she's been using left Sydney for Honolulu, triggering speculation it could be on its way to pick up boyfriend Travis Kelce after he made a cryptic comment about heading to an island in the south. What is for certain the financial impact of Taylor Swift's sellout shows on the local economy, hotels saying they haven't seen so much demand for accommodation in February for a long time.
Especially for one artist. It's crazy to think one person has created this kind of demand. Most of our hotels are at capacity or they've got, rooms at, New Year's Eve level pricing.
As preparations continue at Accor Stadium, some 60 truckloads of staging gear being packed up at the MCG in Melbourne as Sydney turns on a soggy start to Taylor Swift's return.
National Senator Perrin Davey has hit back at claims she was drunk during a Senate hearing last week. Live 2 political reporter Isabel Mullen. Good afternoon, Izzy. She's told 7 News she has a medical condition.
She has, Anne. Good afternoon. I just got off a video call to her and she's blamed scar tissue in her throat for her slurred speech during this Senate hearing. She says she has an abscess behind her tonsils which erupted in 2019 while travelling in Germany. She claims to have had sepsis and a number of emergency operations that have impacted her speech, telling 7 News she'd like people to focus on the content of what she was saying and not how she delivered it. Perrin Davey had been discussing arts investment in the regions with Creative Australia. Here's some of the hearing and her response this afternoon.
As a government, having sit in this place now for from when once the arts would come in and it would be this is what we're saying.
No, I do not believe I was drunk. I occasionally, particularly when I'm tired or stressed or nervous, I do slur my words. I have an issue. It's related to a medical emergency 5 years ago. My throat catches. You can tell it's catching now.
And the Teals are calling for random alcohol testing in Parliament, but so far both the Prime Minister and the opposition leader have said that's not necessary.
Isabel Mullen in Canberra. Thanks, Izzy. We'll check in with ComSec for the latest on your money next. Also, the interstellar marvel that's 500 trillion times brighter than our sun. Plus, a sky-high showstopper bringing visitors from around the world. It's 20 degrees in Cronulla. Angie will have our forecast soon.
Shrinkflation, your favourite grocery products getting smaller and smaller while prices go higher and higher.
Now the new push from shoppers to call out the big brands.
Plus, global business guru Richard Quest, live and exclusive. His cost of living solutions for all Australians. Start with Sunrise. exclusive. Operation Taylor Swift. 7 News takes you inside Sydney's massive transport project to stop a traffic meltdown.
We are throwing everything at it.
Crucial details on commuter timetables and the special artificial intelligence technology keeping watch over everything. 7 News at 6.
Independent testing has revealed air pollution in underground train platforms is more than double the daily limit considered safe. Among the most polluted are stations along the city circle, including Wynyard, Town Hall and Central, as well as Epping in the northwest. Sydney Trains is now carrying out its own scientific tests to check the air quality. Australian scientists have discovered the brightest object in the known universe. The newly identified quasar is said to be as bright as 500 trillion suns, with a massive black hole at its core. I spoke to one of the co-authors of the research, Dr. Christopher Oncken from the Australian National University, earlier this afternoon. Dr. Oncken, good afternoon. Thank you for your time. An impressive discovery. How did you find it? And can you put into context just how bright and powerful this system is?
Well, it was quite a difficult challenge to find this very distant growing black hole amongst all the foreground stars from our own Milky Way. But thanks to recent satellites that have been launched, we can see the very slight motions of all the stars as they orbit around the galaxy. And so that lets us throw all of those out of our sample and just look for the really distant growing black holes. And so this one is growing so fast, we think that no other black hole is growing faster than this one in the whole universe. And it's eating about a whole sun's worth of mass every single day.
Well, it's been described as the most hellish place in the universe, and it's growing rapidly, as you say. Should we be worried?
No, so the light that we've received from this growing black hole is been traveling for 12 billion years, so it's nowhere near our neighborhood, and we have nothing to worry about.
Amazing research, and you also mentioned that brighter quasars can be more difficult to discover. Why is that?
Well, they're quite rare, and so we have many hundreds of millions and billions of stars in the Milky Way that kind of cause this foreground screen of contaminants. And so in order to figure out which ones are the distant black holes, it takes a lot of very careful measurements.
So what is the significance of this discovery? What can you learn from studying this massive quasar?
Well, this particular quasar, I think, will do two important things. One is that in a couple of years' time, it will let us actually measure the size of its accretion disk. We think the accretion disk, the disk of material that's falling into the black hole, which is shining so brightly, we think that that is a size that would span from the sun to the next closest star and then some. But further down the road, we will be able to use bright objects like this and some others that have been found to actually measure directly the expansion of the universe over time. And we do that by measuring how fast the gas between us and this very distant object happens to be moving. And so we need a bright search beacon in the distance, and this is the best one out there.
Incredible. It is an exciting period in astronomy. Thank you very much for sharing your findings with us today. Dr. Christopher Oncken, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Let's check your finance now, and it's been a choppy session on the Australian share market today. Here is Laura Bezerati from CommSec.
Good afternoon. Well, it certainly was quite a choppy session for the Aussie market, but ultimately we did decline by just 6 points, but that still means we put an end to 3 straight days of gains. There was quite a lot going on to move our market today, from the Reserve Bank saying they haven't ruled out another rate hike this year to another massive day for company profit results. In fact, the largest stock in our market, BHP, reported its lowest half-year profit in almost a decade, and that was due to billions in write-downs, and it also cut its dividend payment to 72 US cents per share, but it did see a lift in revenue thanks to higher commodity prices. Shares of casino operator Star Entertainment hit their lowest level ever today, given just 6 months to kick their business into shape by regulators, otherwise it may have to shut its doors. Star also delayed the release of its profit results, which were scheduled to come out tomorrow. Also today, ANZ got the green light to buy
Suncorp's banking division in a $5 billion deal. This saw Suncorp shares hit their highest level in 5.5 years. And the maker of car accessories ARB Corporation rose strongly after a solid result. Finally, the Aussie dollar currently buys 65.2 US cents. Have a lovely night.
Sydney's 6 p.m. news is coming up with Mike Ferguson. Hello, Mike. What's on the program?
Yeah, good afternoon, and tonight the latest on that shock discovery. 3 bodies in our northwest and west. They were found at 2 separate locations in Baulkham Hills and Parramatta, including a child. 7 News was there as the investigation began, and a man is in hospital speaking with police. A bold future planned for the Australian Navy: drone warships packed with missiles but with no crew. When we could see the revolutionary fleet. Sydney houses getting more expensive way faster than apartments. Tonight, why so many are willing to spend so much more on the extra room. Operation Taylor Swift, the big effort to keep Sydney moving as hundreds of thousands of people head to 4 nights of concerts. How to avoid the transport chaos with some special treatment for Swifties. And Latrell Mitchell on his way to America as his Rabbitohs teammates touch down. At 6, meet the American Bunny superfan who says Mitchell and Cody Walker have helped him fight cancer. And those stories and much more tonight at 6 o'clock.
See you then, Fergo. Thank you. A new look air show promising sky-high stunts has launched in Shell Harbour, south of Wollongong. Featuring spectacular displays and heritage aircraft, the program begins next weekend. But Bill Hogan got an early taste of the high-octane action.
Good afternoon. Well, the event once known as Wings Over Illawarra is back in Shell Harbour for 2024 under the new title Air Shows Down Under. 2 hours drive from Sydney, the show is expected to draw a crowd of 20,000 people from interstate and overseas, lining the runway at Shell Harbour Airport to get a glimpse of all the action, from old World War II bombers to lightning-fast aerobatic aircraft. All will be on display from next weekend. The event was today officially launched by the AMDA Foundation after taking over the event this year.
When I came here this morning, as soon as I walked in, I got a real thrill to look at all these aircraft and all these great volunteers making this happen for people of New South Wales.
A spectacle at any air show is, of course, the Red Bull racing team. In a single aircraft, pilots reach speeds of 500 kilometres per hour and feel the effects of 14G force and rolling at 400 degrees a second, 10 feet above the ground. Veteran pilot Matt Hall has been coming here for almost 20 years. It's the people that make this show so special.
When I'm doing up and down the runway at 400 kilometres an hour, I'll get to have a glance out the side and just seeing everybody standing at the fence looking up. It's it inspires me.
7 News cameras took to the skies to cover every single angle of this official event launch, including in this. Tune in tonight at 6 p.m. to see all the speed and excitement.
Thanks, Bill. Next in 7's afternoon news, Angie will be here with your latest weather forecast.
Good afternoon, Andrew Openomo here in the Allcastle Homes traffic chopper. If you're travelling in between Narrabeen and Oxford Falls, the Wakehouse Parkway blocked both ways due to flooding. Right now, big delays through South Wentworthville for the M4 westbound just past the Cumberland Highway from an earlier accident. Traffic now back to the M4 tunnel. Allcastle's Palace Regent offers a huge 45 squares of luxury living with 5 substantial bedrooms, large balcony and more. allcastlehomes.com.au.
In 7 News, Western Sydney murder mystery, 3 bodies at 2 separate locations. Sydney saturated, flood warnings and danger on the roads. The invisible pollution risk at Sydney train stations. Drone ships, the Australian Navy's bold step into the future. And Operation Taylor Swift, crucial details to avoid transport chaos. That's at 6.
Angie's here with our forecast. So what's the latest on the wet weather, Angie?
Well, and it's really eased back this afternoon. Storm warnings have been cancelled, showers have cleared, but it is still quite unpredictable, so there could well be another round tonight. Those clouds certainly had an impact on temperature today. It was 3 degrees below average with a top of 23 in the CBD, and that happened before 10 a.m. ahead of the increase in wet weather. A trough of low pressure lies over western New South Wales with another over the central coast, but a high in the Tasman heading east is causing both of those systems to decay and the wet weather to ease. So that is going to bring a little bit of a break for a couple of days until a deep low passes the state south near the end of the week, and then rain is expected to ramp up once again. Around the capital's grey skies remain for the east, so showers in Brisbane and Canberra. Very warm further south. Melbourne, fine, 33 degrees. Hobart expecting 29. Adelaide, 35. Perth's on track for a cooler 30 though, and unsettled with 33 degrees for Darwin. Back in the CBD, we will notice an improvement tomorrow. Partly cloudy day with a couple of showers persisting, a top of 27 degrees, so a fair bit warmer as well. To the next 7 days, even though the rainfall totals have eased, there is the potential for showers still to develop over the next few days. Rainfall totals to ramp up again on Friday. Saturday's looking much more settled, mid-20s, maybe a passing shower if anything. Sunday, Monday, nice and clear. We'll be ready for that by then. More weather at 6 o'clock, Anne.
We certainly will be. Thank you, Angie. That is Sydney's 4 p.m. news for this Tuesday. Mark Ferguson will bring you 7 News at 6. I'm Ann Sanders. Stay with 7 Now for the Chase Australia, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.
Stream 7 News anytime, live and on demand on 7 Plus. And with 7news.com.au, you'll know the news now.